Begin today the Gemara on Daf Yud Beis, right at the beginning of the Yamud. The Gemara is going to explain there the inyan of the Shemen HaMishcha, because it was mentioned in the Mishnah regarding the Kohen Mashiach. This is the Kohen Gadol that was anointed with this Shemen HaMishcha, and then at a certain point they stopped using it. So the Gemara before brought that there were kings, that was Yehoiachiz and Yehoiakim. They were sons of Yeshio HaMelech, and Yehoiachiz was the younger brother, and he was anointed to be king before his older brother. Why? Because he was a tzaddik, and because of the sort of fight between them, so they used Shemen HaMishcha to anoint him as a king. So here the Gemara is going to ask, let's see, figure out over here, at what point did they stop using Shemen HaMishcha? It seems like at this time period it wasn't available anymore. So how did they anoint him with this Shemen HaMishcha? That's where the Gemara begins the discussion. Frag the Gemara, Umi have a Shemen HaMishcha? Was this Shemen HaMishcha even around in the times of Yehoiachiz to give him he should be the king because of the fight that there was with Yehoiakim? Did I mention Tzidkiyahu before? It was with Yehoiakim. It was between Yehoiachiz and Yehoiakim. But the question is, what Tanya we learned in the Braisa, it says, Nignaz Orain. At the time when the Orain in the Kodesh HaKadoshim was hidden under the ground, so with it, Nignaz Shemen HaMishcha, this Shemen HaMishcha was hidden, Tzinsenes Haman. There was a little tube that held a man in it that was also hidden. O makle shel aren, that stick of aren that they put in the midbar after the machlekes of Korach to prove that he was the one chosen. Shkeidea, the almonds with it, the prochel, and the flowers that grew with it in a miraculous way that they had, and they also hid it there. And one more thing, va'argas shesholchu pelishtim doiren liYisrael. There was a box that the pelishtim, after the Orain was captured and they sent it back, they sent also along with it a box, a gift for the Yidden, that was also always by the Orain and was hidden there. Shenam, the pasuk says, "Vas kli azav asher shevaisem loy, oshoim tasimu ba'arges mitzidoy v'shalachtem moisay v'holach." They were sent together, and it went with it. It was stayed with the Orain and was hidden there with the Orain. That's what the Braisa says. These all things were hidden together. Now the question is, at what time period? Who? Umi ganzai. Who hid it? Yeshio Melech Yehuda Ganzai. Yeshio HaMelech, he's the one that hid the Orain, and he was the father actually of Yehoiachiz. So a generation before Yehoiachiz, it was already hidden. Why? Sharash Akasav Batayri. So it says in the pasuk, Yoilech Hashem Moischav Malchav V'Goyim. Hashem will take you and expel you from the land, you and your kings. So he saw the goal is coming. So Tziva Ganzam. He commanded that they should go ahead and hide it. Shenem, as the pasuk there says, "Vayemel alavim hamavinim l'chol Yisrael hakadoshim l'Hashem tnuas arena kodesh bebayis l'shabban Shlomo ben David melech Yisrael." Place the Orain in the bayis, in the home that Shlomo built for it. El chamasa b'kosef. You're not going to carry it on your shoulders anymore. Now, what does this mean? He's telling them put it in the bayis. It was there. It's in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. What does it mean he's telling them put it in there? So it must mean that he's telling them put it in that place that Shlomo built. He digged a cave in a deep place that they can hide it there. And he's saying El Chamasa B'Kosev, which means you're not going to carry it anymore. So Rashi says he was telling them, if you're going to take the Orain with you down to Golos, you're going to carry it down to Golos with you, then you're not going to come back. So therefore leave it here. And Ata Ivdus Hashem Lekechem, serve Hashem Ves'alma Yisrael, and the nation, the Yidden. So from here we see that Yeshio hid it, because this pasuk is Yeshio speaking. Now here the Gemara also brings the source. How do we know that there was other things hidden with it, which includes also the Shemen HaMishcha? So Vamar Rabbi Elazar says that Asya Sham Sham. There's Gzeir Shava with the word Sham that it says by the Orain. V'ani'adati l'cha Sham. So this is the Orain, and it says also a similar term, V'ni'adati Shama l'vnei Yisrael. So now this Gzeir Shava is actually the source that it's in Tzinsenes Haman, the tube of the man was placed there, because by the man it also says V'ten Shama Maloya Oimer, and then there's the Gzeir Shava Asya Mishmeres. So we learn out this Gzeir, or did I skip over here? No, yeah, the Asya Mishmeres. We learn out the Gzeir Shava of Mishmeres. It says by the man the term Mishmeres. And it also says by the Shemen HaMishcha that it's Mishmeres, that the Mishmeres of Deirei Seichem. So therefore I learn out that it applies also to Shemen HaMishcha. And then Asya Deiris. I also learn out the Gzeir Shava of Deiris that it says from the Tzinsenes Haman, and I learn out to the Shemen HaMishcha. So again, the Rashi, I'm just looking at Rashi, he switches the order. That's why I got confused a little. Rashi switches the order of the Gzeir Shavas. So the Mishmeres is the Gzeir Shava from the Tzinsenes Haman to the Makal of Aaron. It's by the Makal of Aaron actually that it says the term Mishmeres. And then the Gzeir Shava of Deiris is the Gzeir Shava from the Man that it says L'Deirei Seichem to the Shemen HaMishcha, where it also uses the term L'Dei Sechem. So from all these different terms, we see that together with the Aron, what was also hidden is the Shemen HaMishcha. So how do they have it to use for Yahayachis? So the Gemara answers, Omer Rav Papa, they did not have the Shemen HaMishcha. Ba'afarsime dachya. They used this balsam oil, this pure balsam oil, different oil that anoint them in order to make clear to Klal Yisrael that he is the king, but it wasn't this original Shemen HaMishcha. We learned in the Braisa, how exactly do you anoint the king? Kimin Nezer. You put the oil on his head around and around like a crown around his head. And when they anointed the Kayanim, how did they anoint them? Kimin ki, like a key. What does ki mean? My kimin ki. Omer Rav Menashe bar Gada, kimin chaf yivani. It was made like the shape of a chaf yivani. So if you look into the Rashi, they have the shape of the chaf yivani like a ches. So and Rashi says the way they put the oil was they put it first on the head, in the front, on the forehead, and then they brought it around to the back of the head. So then it comes around. It's like in the shape of this ches. But the chaf, that's the shape of the chaf yivani. But in other pictures here, they have it over here. See over here in the art scroll, they have it's not exactly a ches because one line was longer than the other. It's more like a little bit more similar to the langa chaf, right? When you have one line that's longer. The Rambam actually has the picture of the chaf yivani like an X, different picture. What's the significance of this inyan of chaf yivani? To anoint the Kohen Gadol with a chaf and dafka yivani, Greek. Kohen Gadol, what are we doing with the inyan of yivani here? So the Rebbe once explained that this inyan of it says by the king it was like a crown, and by the Kohen Gadol it was like a chaf. It shows that they made the actual anointing related to who they're anointing. By the king it's a crown, so therefore by the Kohen it's the chaf, which is the Rosh Tevis of Kohen. And the inyan of chaf yivani it was to be makdim refuah l'makkah. The Yevanim that came to the Beis HaMikdash and Timu, Shemen, they were metama the Shemen in the Beis HaMikdash, so they anointed with a chaf Yevani in order to give the koyach to them be able to get out the Yevanim and to transform them into Kedusha. Therefore, it was this dafka scene of chaf Yevani. Now, exactly how the anointing was, in the beginning, they poured some oil on the head. And after they poured on the head, they put the oil between the eyelids and they anointed in that area between the eyelids, and then also brought it to the back of the head in this shape of the chaf yivani. But in another brayse it says that it was in an opposite order. First there was some oil placed between the eyelids, and afterwards oil was poured on the head. So the Gemara says Tanoi, Samachlekes Tanoim. So one opinion says that the main thing of the anointing is when you apply the oil between the eyelids. That's the main thing. But the other opinion says yitzika dife. No, that the pouring of the oil, that's the main thing. The pouring it on the head, therefore that came first. So the Gemara brings the source. Moshe Rabbeinu.
No, in the times of...
by the Navi. Shmuel Navi, by David, the Navi, whoever was the Navi at that time. But by Aaron HaKayin and the Kayanim and the Mishkan, it was Moshe Rabbeinu. My time, so what's the source? The Mandama Yitzika Dife, that the pouring is the main thing, and it comes first, because look in the pasuk, it says first, Vayitzaik Vishemen HaMishcha Reisharei, he poured from the Shemen HaMishcha on his head, and then it says Vayimshach Eisilekatre, he anointed him, which means then taking it and putting it between the eyelids. The one that says that no, the Meshicha, when you apply it, you put it in that place between the eyelids and then around to the back of the head, that's the main thing. So the reason is my time. Kasava, he holds that you see that the anointing is the main thing, not the pouring. Shekenat HaMotzei, it's a klishades. By the klishades over there, it just says that not that they poured. Over there it says that only the lashon of Shemen HaMishcha. Like the Gemara, but vaksiv vayitzaik ubesoif vayimshach. But it does say the pasuk that we quoted before. First vayitzaik that he poured, and afterwards vayimshach that it was placed between the eyes. So how could he change the order of the pasuk? So he says, no, since we see that the Mashiach is the main thing, so we have to say that Hachi Kama. This is what that pasuk means in the order. My tam vayitzaik. Why are you pouring the oil on the top of the head? Because Mishum de vayimshach. Because you already applied it between the eyelids, that's the main thing. Therefore, you could then go ahead and pour it as well. Tana Rabbanan El Braisa, we learned about this oil that was poured, and it was on the Aaron HaKoyin, that it says in Tilim, Kishemen HaToiv Geimer, like this good oil that's yoyred ala zaken zakan Aaron, that comes down on the beard of Aaron. What does this mean? That Kemin Shnei Tipe Margolios, it was like two droplets of this oil that was like pearls, that was always there in the beard of Aaron. So obviously a nest that from then, when it was poured on him, so it dripped down, and it dripped down on his beard, and there was two drops that was always on his beard. Rav Papa said about this. Tana, we learned in the Braisa, Kishahu Misaper, when Aaron and Kain was speaking, so his mouth is moving and his beard is moving. So these drops of the oil would go up into the source, into where the beard comes out of, and the skin, to stay there, that it shouldn't fall down. And then when he was not speaking, so then the oil came out into the tip of the hairs of his beard. Now this Inyan, this is obviously a big Ruchni Inyan, Farshim Sukkah about it. But the Alter Rebbe, look at the Torah, Parshas Ba'aloischa, the first Maimer, the Alter Rebbe speaks about this Inyan, of this Shemen Atayv, and that this is the whole Inyan of Aaron, to bring down the Hamshacha of a Lokos that comes down through the oil on his beard. The Alter Rebbe there speaks about this Barichis, it connects it to Torah Shabbal Peh, I believe. It's obviously a Ruchni Inyan of this Inyan, Shemen goes on Chochmeh, all the high in Yonam that it says about this. Now, Valdav is Moshe Rabbeinu was worried about this oil, these two drops of oil. Omar, he said, maybe I touched this Shemen HaMishcha and therefore I used it for myself. It came onto me and I was moiling this oil, because Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that not only he anointed Aaron, but he is the one that dressed Aaron the 7 days of the Shiva Simei Malum. Who dressed Aaron HaKohen with the 8 garments of the Kohen Gadol? Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that dressed him every day. So he thought that maybe when he was dressing him, he touched that oil and he was moil. Yatsa Baska v'Amra, Baska came out and said, Keshemen Atoy v'Gaimer, and the Pasuk then says, Ketal Chermoin, like the dew in the mountain of Chermoin. So Matal Chermoin, Ein Boy Me'ila, just like the Tal Chermoin, there's no Me'ila there. Av Shemen HaMishcha, Shebskan Aaron, so this Shemen HaMishcha on Aaron HaKohen's beard, Ein Boy Me'ila. There's no Me'ila. And the Rishonim said the reason there's no Me'ila is because the law by Me'ila is, once it's Nasa Mitzvasai, the mitzvah is done with it, there's no Me'ila anymore. Yeah, but it's interesting that it compares the dafka to Tal Chermoin dafka. There's also in Pichsid, what's the Shemen, what's the Tal and Chermoin. Farshim speak about this, but this is obviously a Beikar Ruchni is the Genian. What this anointing oil is a very high level. Now Vadayin Hoya Aaron Doyek. Aaron himself was worried. Omar, he said, Shema Moshe Mal, maybe Moshe Rabbeinu did not misuse it. Avlani Malti, maybe I was moiling it. Yatsa Baska v'Amra, so the Baska came out and said, V'Amra said to Aaron, Hinem Atoivim Anoim Shevesachem Gam Yochad, the continuation of that capital, that how good and how pleasant are the two brothers. That means Ma Moshe Mal, Moshe Rabbeinu anointed him properly and did not misuse it. Af Atole Ma'alta, you didn't misuse it as well. So obviously the concept of Me'ila that we're addressing here is that he brought down the revelation, this concept, this Chachma, this Shemen in a proper way. It's coming down to a lower level. You have to make sure that it comes down in the proper way, that it shouldn't be affected by the darkness where it's coming to. So he's saying that he succeeded in bringing down this revelation of the Shemen HaMishcha properly. When you anoint the kings, it's done by a stream. Why? Because it's a good sign. Just like the stream is flowing and it flows continuously, so their kingdom should continue. Shanam, the pasuk says, the Melech said, take your servant, my master, take him down to the Gichan stream, and there you will anoint him. So since we brought this by the king to anoint him by the stream, which is a good sign, Gemara here brings other things to show what's a good sign for a person. So Amar Rabami says, a person that wants to know, Imasik Shate, whether he's going to live out the year or not, Eloi or not, what should he do? Nitli Shrage, Basara Yem de Ben Shoshana Leyem Kippurim, let him light a candle in the days of Aseres Yemei Tshuva between Shoshana and Yom Kippur, Bebesid Leinoshev Zika, in a house where there's no wind blowing. If he sees that the light of the candle is burning and it doesn't go out, so Neda, he knows the Mastik Shate, that he will live out his year. That's one sign. It also says about the minig that you light the candle of Yom Kippur, that if that candle that you light burns, you know it's a sign that you'll live out the year. Similar to what the Gemara says here. This is the source. One person that's investing in a business, he wants to know if he's going to succeed or not. So let him raise a chicken or a rooster for this purpose to connect it to his business. Now yishomen v'shaper, if it's going to be fat and good, so then he knows that matzlach will be matzliach. It's a sign for business, for his parnasa. Now, Haiman the boil mepek laorcha, a person who wants to go out on his way, he wants to know he wants to know if he's going to come back home safely. Eloi or not, so the sign for him is nekim bebeisa the chavra, let him go into a dark room, a dark house. And if he sees a shadow of his shadow, later he could know the hadav asi lebeisa. That's a sign that he'll come home safely. But the Gemara says on this last thing, v'lav milsihi, this is not the thing. You should not do this because the truth is, even if he does not see a shadow of a shadow, it still doesn't mean that he for sure won't come home safely. It's possible that he will, but the very fact that he may not see that shadow of a shadow, that itself may make him feel very bad. And then, because this itself, since he's feeling very bad about this, a Misr Mazda, that itself will cause him to have a bad mazel. So the Mashal points out that in essence, you can say the same thing regarding the other signs as well. Don't make these signs, because if you won't see it, you may feel bad about it. But Mashal says, Dafka regarding traveling, the Gemara says this point, because the Satan is Mekatrik B'shas Sakana when a person is traveling. There's another huge discussion here in Rishayim and Mefarshim regarding these signs that the Gemara says. It's very unusual because there's a Isser called Leisenachashu. You're not supposed to make these kinds of signs. If my bread falls or this happens, that it's a sign for what's going to happen in the future. So the Rishayim will explain why over here in these ways this is allowed. So one of the things that they say is that the signs of Leisenachashu is only something that happens by itself. And then after it happened, you use that as a sign. That's where there's the Isser. But over here, the person is doing this. It's not something that happened on its own. Another thing they say is that over here we're talking about things that are actually real. This is not the loisa nachshu is not things that are shtusim that have no simon at all. It's not a source at all. And a person is using it as sort of he's serving or he's taking a sign from something that has no kayach. Here we're talking about something that is something real. That's allowed. It's not. There's other pirushim as well, but akopanim this is not a problem of loisa nachshu. Abaye said, Hashad Amrit Simona Milsihi. Now that you're saying that making all these signs is a good thing and you can see the future and the sign itself, it's not only that you can see the future, but the sign itself actually brings this. That's what it says also about a sign. So here this comes to Rosh Hashanah. La'olam Yehei, this is the source of what you do on Rosh Hashanah, that Yehei, Ragel, a person should be accustomed to, L'mechzi Berei Shateh, to see in the beginning of the year. That's the gersa we have in our Gemara. Mechsi, so it just means that you just have to have it on the table, right? But there's another gersa that it says lamecha, not just to see it, but also to eat it. And that, what do you have? Kara, which is gourd or it's to have there gourd. Okay, help me out with the translations here. Rubio, I think is fenugreek. Okay, whatever that is, some kind of a vegetable or something. Karti, which is leek. Silka is beets. And tamri, and maybe. And tamri is dates. So what's the simon of these things? The simon is these are vegetables that grow very quickly. So that means that a person is going to have a year where things are going to come to him and succeed very quickly. And also some of them are the tamar, the dates have a good sweet taste. So there's different pirushim that it says in the Rishayim and Paiskim, what exactly is the samanim of all these things? But this is what's brought in Shulchan Aruch as well, that this is the minig. It's not our minig to do all these things. Maybe by the Sfardim, it's allowed the minig to do all these things. The Alter Rebbe brings it in Shulchan Aruch as well, but B'poyal, our minig is only with the apple and the honey, and this is the source here in the Gemara, and the Hiratzen that you say with it as well. So it's
some Hasidim, not here though,
they
use carrots because the word is...
Yeah. Oh, so that's another thing that it says also, besides the remez that I just said, that Rashi here says that these things grow quickly, it's also the names of these things. Rubia means a lot, and long year, and so on. So in the names itself, it shows the good sign. Amalur of Masharshi Lebrei. Rav Masharshi tells his son that Kibaisu Meil or Migmer Kamera Baicho. If you want to go in front of your teacher to go and learn Torah from him. So Garsa Masnita, first learn the Mishnayos. You should be proficient. Don't come to him knowing nothing, so you won't know how to learn and to ask him questions. Come first, learn the Mishnayos, and then then you can go to your teacher and learn from him. And another thing he said, Kamei, when you sit in front of him, you should sit in front of him so you could see him, you could see his mouth. You learn Torah much better when you see the person you're learning from. And also and when you're going to learn, and this is the point that we said before by the king, Garsu al Nara Demaya. You should learn by a stream of water. So just like the stream of water continues to flow, so too your learning will also continue, and it won't stop. It'll continue flowing. Another thing he said is, "V'tevu akilkili the masa mechasya." You would rather sit by the garbage of the city masa mechasya v'leteva padne de pumbedisa, rather than sitting by the palaces of the people of pumbedisa, because he was telling them that in masa mechasya there's talmidei chachamim that know how to teach Torah and to paskin. So it's better population of people. It's better to live there amongst them that learn Torah, even if it's in the garbage dump, than in the palaces of pumbedisa, which are not learning Torah. And also tav, gildene, sarya, the masa machasya, lemechal. It's better to eat from the spoiled fish, small spoiled fish from the city of masa machasya, mikutche derami kipi, than the kutcha, which is always this fish tip that they had in Bavel, which is called kutche, but it's here. The Gemara is saying that this kutche is extremely strong and sharp. That's such a strong food that the rami kipi, that you put it on rocks, it breaks the rock, or it moves the rock from its place. It's one pshat Rashi says, or another pshat Rashi says, Rami Kipi means those people that are living in these high places, and these high distinguished people, and eat this kutche, there's no point in hanging out with them because they don't have the Torah. You be with the people of Masa Machasi that are simple people, they eat fish that are not in such good condition, but they have Torah. Now going back to the point we were speaking about before about the anointing with the oil. So by Shmuel it says, his mother said, Roma karni balakai, picked up my keren, a horn today, Bishter. So regarding Shmuel, so it says karni, with a horn, that's how he is being anointed. So the Gemara says, Roma karni veloy Roma pachi, is the anointing dafke with a keren, with a horn, and not with a jug? So the Gemara says, yes, she was saying dafke this, because David and Shlomo nimshchu bekeren, both David and Shlomo, they were anointed with the oil that was in a horn. Nimshchu malchusan, their malchus continued, didn't stop. Shaul v'Yehu, both Shaul and Yehu, shenimshchu bepach, when they were anointed, it was in the oil that was in a jug. La nimshchu malchusan. So their oil, their melucha was interrupted. Shaul HaMelech's meluchas were interrupted in the middle. Going back to what it said in the Mishnah. Hamashuach b'shemen hamishcha v'gaimer, the one that's anointed with this anointing oil, so he is the one that brings this special carbon of the par, but not the Kohen Gadol that just has the merubah begodim. He has the 8 garments, but he has not been anointed with this oil. So Tan Rabbanan, so in Abraxas, we learned the source for this, because in the pasuk where it speaks about the special carbon that this Kohen brings, it says Mashiach, the one that's anointed. So Yacha Melech. I would actually think that when it says here Mashiach, maybe it refers to the king, because the king is also anointed, as we saw before. So the pasuk says no, it's the Kohen HaMashiach. Now, if the pasuk would only say Kohen, Yacham Merubah Begadim, I would think it refers to any Kohen Gadol, even the one that was not anointed. Mashiach. Therefore, the pasuk says Mashiach. Okay, but now Mashiach, if it would just say this, that it's the Kohen Mashiach, I would say Yacham Mashuach Muhammad. There's someone else that's anointed as well, and that was a Kohen Mashuach that went out when Yidden were going out to war. He would come and speak to the Yidden before they go out to fight. So Talmud Loimar ve'ha Kohen HaMashiach. When it says ha Kohen HaMashiach, I know that she'enoi Mashiach al Gabov, that there's nobody else that was anointed that's above him. That's how so it's only the Kohen Mashiach, the Kohen Gadol that's serving in the Beis HaMikdash, not the Kohen Mashuach for the war. So the Gemara explains, what's the drasha? My mashma, how do I see that Kohen HaMashiach only means the Kohen Gadol? It's the hay. Because like Rav said, when it says ha yerech, you take the thigh. What does it mean? Ham yumena shabi yerech, the right one, the special one of the thigh. Chanami here as well. Ha Mashiach means ham yumish shabi mishuchim, the right one or the special one, the distinguished one that was anointed, and that's only the Kohen Gadol, not the Kohen Mashuach that was anointed to lead Yidden into war.
The hey how you do it.
Hey how you do it, yeah, human. Amamad, so the Tanya and the Braisa said Mashiach. Originally he said that when it says Mashiach Yachol Melech, I would think that this pash, it speaks about the special par, the bull that he brings when he does an Aveda B'Shoigeg. I would think maybe it's the king. Says the Gemara, how would you think this? Melech, Paru de Maisi, the king brings this bull. Sairu de Maisis. We learned earlier in the Masechta. By the king, there's a special parsha that says that he brings a carbon for a Shoigeg, a Sair, not the bull. And says the Gemara, that it's no, I still need this special drasha to say that it's speaking about the Kayin, because I would think to say, as we learned here in the Masechta, there's 2 kinds of shaygigs. Al shigigas maiseh, for a regular shaygig where he didn't realize the action that he was doing, Yavi saw it. That we look in the parsha of the Melech, he brings that goat. But al helem davar. But over here in this parsha by the Kayin, it speaks about when he made a wrong psak din, and then he did a shaygig. Yavi par. Maybe I would say that it refers to the Melech that he brings this bull. Kamash malon. Therefore it says Kayin, excluding the king. Then the Mishnah said, "Ein be meshuach b'shemen hamishcha." that there's no difference between the kohen that was anointed by the soil and the meruma begodim, and he has the extra garments, but he's not anointed. Only the par regarding this halacha of the special bull that it's brought. So the Gemara must listen to like Rab Meir, what it says in our Mishnah. It does not follow Rab Meir's opinion, because Rab Meir, if you would follow Rab Meir, Hatanya, we learned in the Brayse, meruma begodim, even the kohen that was not anointed, he has the extra garments, maybe par. Habal kala mitzvahs, he does bring this bull as his carbon for all Avedas b'shegig. David Rab Meir, this is Rab Meir's opinion. The Chachamim did not agree to him. So our Mishnah is following the Chachamim's opinion. My time at Rab Meir, what's the source of what Rab Meir says? The Tanya, so the Brayse says, Rab Meir darshans that when it says Mashiach, so it says anointed, so only the kind that's anointed. How do I know that I include the kind that has the extra garments? Talmud Lema, HaKayin, HaMashiach, extra hay is actually coming to be marbe. To add any kohen, the HaKayin. When it says kohen, it means even the kohen that's not Mashiach. You have to divide. HaKayin is one thing and HaMashiach is another thing. Okay, so now we know that our Mishnah is the Chachamim. So the Gemara asks, Mama, what did you just say? Kerabanan, that our Mishnah is following the Chachamim. But now, Eim Seifa. What does it say after this in the Mishnah? Eim ben Kayin Mishamish. There's no difference between the Kayin that's actually serving now in the Beis HaMikdash, LeKayin Sha'avar. To a Kayin, we're talking about Kayin Gadol. The Kayin Gadol that's serving now is the Kayin Gadol, and the Kayin Gadol that's not serving anymore is the Kayin Gadol. What does this mean? If for whatever reason the Kohen Gadol couldn't serve in the Beis HaMikdash, he became Tomei or whatever it is, so they temporarily appointed a second Kohen Gadol. But then when the first Kohen Gadol goes back, so the second Kohen Gadol, he was a Kohen Gadol, but he's not serving anymore now. So there's no difference between them. That Kohen Gadol that served temporarily still has a status as a Kohen Gadol. The only difference is, Elapar Yom Kippurim, when it comes to the special bull brought in Yom Kippur, so that is only for the Kohen Gadol that's actually serving, and Vasir Seifa. And also regarding this halacha of bringing the special carbon mincha every day, that's only for the Kohen Gadol that serves. But otherwise, even the Kohen Gadol that was removed already is the same like the Kohen Gadol. He can come and serve in the Beis HaMikdash again. Now says the Gemara, Asan Rab Meir. So this part of the Mishnah actually fits only with Rab Meir. The Gemara brings the source, the Tanya, because we learned in the Brayse, Ire by Psol b'Kohen Gadol. If there was something that some kind of a psul in the Kohen Gadol, he became Tameh, something happened to him, he couldn't serve, and va'avar, and therefore he the first Kohen Gadol, so he stepped down. Umina Kohen Achet Tachtov, and now they appointed a second Kohen Gadol to take his place. Now, so Harisha and Chayzel Avedasai, the first Kohen Gadol goes back to his place, to his Aveda, when he's able again, and Vasheni, the second Kohen Gadol, Kol mitzvahs kahuna olav, or kahuna gedayla. All the details of the Kohen Gadol is still applicable to him. So we see, Rab Meir, this is Rab Meir's opinion. So we see over here that Rab Meir is saying, like it said in the Mishnah, even the Kohen Gadol that was there serving the substitute, that was there temporarily, he still has all the halachas of a Kohen Gadol, and he could serve only these two things. He doesn't bring the power of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur and not Asir Seifa. Rabbi Yosi says, Rishon Chayzel Avedasai. No, the first one, when he's able, he goes back to serve. B'sheni ein roi. Now the second one is not fit anymore. Loyla Kohen Gadol, Loyla Kohen Hadyet. He won't be able to serve as a Kohen Gadol anymore, and he won't be able to serve as the Kohen Hadyet anymore either. Rabbi Yosi said that Ma'aseh b'Yosef ben Elam in Tzipaidi was a story with Yosef ben Elam. He was from Tzipaidi. She'ira by Psol b'Kohen Gadol. So there was a Psol with the Kohen Gadol. Okay, so we have over here the Gersa in our Gemara, but there's the Gersa here on the side, Ois Gimel of Aris V'Tziyunim. So what happened when he became Pasul? So in the Gersa on the side it says, Uminu Tachtov, and this Yosef ben Elam was appointed instead of him. And then above Ma'aseh Lefnei Chachamim, the story came in front of the Chachamim. V'Amru, they said, Rishain Chayzel Avedasai, that the first one returns, but Sheini ein roi loy Kohen Gadol v'loy Kohen Hadyet. The second one is not roi to be either not a Kohen Gadol, not a Kohen Hadyet, and here explains why not. Kohen Gadol mishum Eva. We can't have two Kohanim Gedalim that are coming into the Beis HaMikdash serving at the same time, because there shouldn't be any competition and a fight between them. And Kohen Hadyet, but on the other hand, we can't demote him to be a Kohen Hadyet now, because of Mishum Ma'alam HaKodesh Ve'emeridim. Once he was promoted to be a Kohen Gadol, he can't go down from that level of Kedusha now. So therefore, he's in between. He's not demoted. He's still a Kohen Gadol, but he's not an acting Kohen Gadol. He's retired Kohen Gadol. Yeah, he can't serve anymore. So over here we see that Rabbi Yossi argues with Rabbi Meir, and then Rabbi Yossi is really arguing with our Mishnah. Because in our Mishnah it says that even the Kohen Gadol that was already removed has the same status like a Kohen Gadol, and he can still come and serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So it comes out, Reisha Rabbanon, the Reisha of our Mishnah we proved before, goes according to the Rabbanon regarding the fact that we make a distinction between the Kohen Gadol that's Mashuach B'Shem and Amishcha, and the Kohen Gadol which is only Merubah Begadim. But over here, V'Seifeh, here when we're talking about this Kohen that's removed, the Kohen Gadol that's removed, Rabbi Meir. This is Rav Meir. So Rav Chisda says Rav Chisda in, yes, that's true. Reisha Rabbanan, Sefer Rav Meir. The beginning of the Mishnah is Rabbanan, and the end of the Mishnah is Rav Meir. Not Rav Yosef, but Rav Yosef says Rabbi. This Mishnah is Rabbi Rabbeinu Hakadosh that put together the Mishnayos. That's his opinion. The Nas of Law, Aliba the Tanai. He brings two different opinions of two Tanaim. The Reisha is Chachamim and the Sefer is Rav Meir, because he holds regarding this subject like the Chachamim, and regarding the Sefer he holds like Rav Meir. Rava says Rab Shimoni, that our Mishnah is Rab Shimon. V'sava like Rab Meir b'chada. In one detail he holds like Rab Meir. B'chada. In another detail he argues with Rab Meir. Or as here the Gemara brings a brayse that we see this, that the brayse says the same like our Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to prove that this brayse is Rab Shimon. Now the brayse has more details than what it says in the Mishnah. So the Tanya we learned in the brayse dvarim sheben kohen gadol lekohen hedyet Elohim. What are the halachas that distinguish from a kohen gadol to the kohen hedyet? Parabal kala mitzvahs, his special bull that he brings for the shegig and all mitzvahs, that's only by the kohen gadol. Upar Yom Kippurim, and then the special part of the Yom Kippur, only the kohen gadol brings it into the Beis HaMikdash. Vasir seifa, the special korban mincha every day, and also regarding an oval, when regarding tearing kriya, v'loy peireya, v'loy peirim, he doesn't tear the kriya, and peirim is also part of it, tearing more. Aval, however, even regarding this, that he does not tear kriya, the kohen gadol peirim mulmata, he does tear, but on the bottom of the garment. The Gemara will explain this later. V'hahedyet mulmaila, but the regular kohen hedyet, he tears kriya on the top of the garment, like kriya is usually done. Ve'emet tama lekreivim, the kohen gadol that is does not become tame even to relatives. Umuzar al absula, and he's warned that he marries only a psula, which all this does not apply to the kohen hedyet. Va'asar ba'almana, he may not marry an almana, and also machzir saritzeach, when he dies, the ritzeach can then leave his ir miklat and return back home. Umakriv aynan, even on the day when a close relative passes away before the burial, he's allowed to bring a carbon on that day, but ve'eno eichel, he cannot eat from that carbon as a aynin, and ve'eno chaylik, and he will not divide also between from others that brought the carbon, he does not take a portion. Now, Makriv Chelik Bereish, the Kohen Gadol always brings the carbon first. He doesn't have to be in line with there was a pious. He always can go first. V'naitel Chelik Bereish, he takes a portion of a carbon first. Umishamish Shmeina Kelim, and he serves with 8 garments. And V'chol Avedas Yom Kippurim, all the Avedah done in the Beis HaMikdash Yom Kippur, Einik Sheira Elabai, could only be done by the Kohen Gadol. And here one more detail: Upater al Tumas Mikdash v'Kadasha, and he's pater of bringing a carbon chatos, or a carbon oilaviyated that is, for coming into the Beis HaMikdash tamei, or eating from kachim when he's tamei. It's this detail, which the Gemara will soon say, proves that this is Rab Shimon. Because we had earlier in the Masechta that Rab Shimon is the one that said that a Kohen Gadol does not bring the carbon for Tumas Mikdash Kadashav. Okay, now the Braisa goes on to say, so v'kulan noegim b'merubah begadim. All of these details apply also by the Kohen that was not anointed, but he's just wearing the extra garments. Chutz mipar hamevi al kol mitzvahs. Besides the halacha of the par that you bring for all the mitzvahs, that halacha of the par does not apply to the kohen which was not anointed. So this is exactly like it said in our Mishnah, not like the opinion of Rab Meir. That's the first part of the Braisa. And then it goes on to say, the second part of the Braisa talks about, like what our Mishnah spoke about in the second part. What's the difference between the kohen gadol that's serving and the substitute that's now not serving? The kol hanayegim b'Mashiach. The kohen, all of these apply to the kohen that's anointed and that was serving, but not sha'ava, that was now removed. He's not serving anymore. Chutz mipar Yom Kippurim, besides the bull, the special bull of Yom Kippur, and vasir se'efa, and the carbon mincha every day, those two details do not apply to the kohen, the substitute that's now not serving anymore. Exactly like it said in the Mishnah, and this is like the opinion of Rab Meir. And the kulan, another detail that this Braisa adds here, the kulan ein noegim b'mishuach milchama. All these halachas we mentioned there do not apply to that kohen that's anointed to be there to lead Yidden into war. Chutz mehei dvarim ha'amurim b'parsha. besides 5 things that are written in Parshas Emor that do apply even to this Kayim Meshuach Mulchama. And what are they? What are the 5 things? Loi Pareh v'loi Pairim, he may not do the Kriya as an oval, regular Kriya. Ve'ei Metamel Krevim, doesn't become Tamid to close relatives. Umuzar al Absula, v'asab almana, he may only marry Absula and not an Almana. And also Machzis Aritzeach, another detail. Machzis Aritzeach, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says the Ritzeach could leave the Ir Miklat not only when the Kohen Gadol dies, but even this Kohen Meshuach Mulchama when he dies. Now the Ritzeach can go home. But Chachamim say Eina Machzer. No, that doesn't apply to this Kohen Meshuach Mulchama. The Ritzeach cannot go home. Okay, so here we see this Braisa is saying exactly like the opinion of our Mishnah. Now, how do we know that this Braisa is Rab Shimon? V'hai, we said that this is Rab Shimon. So V'hai mimaydeh Rab Shimon. What's the source? Rav Papa said, because of one detail it says here. As I pointed out before, it says that he doesn't bring the carbon for Tumas Mikdash v'Kedasha. Man, Shamat Eidam Apatal Tumas Mikdash v'Kedasha. Of who did we learn earlier in the Masechta? On Daf Tes, it says in the Mishnah that he doesn't become Tami from Tumas. He doesn't bring the carbon that is for Tumas Mikdash v'Kedasha of Rab Shimon. Therefore, we know that this is Rab Shimon. Okay, the Gemara explains a few details of this Braisa. It says, Chutz mehei dvarim ha'amurim beparsha. The 5 details that it said in the parsha apply even to the Kayim Meshuach Muhammad that is going out to lead Yidden into war. No, and immediately from where do I know this? The Tanna Rabbanan. So we learned in the Braisa, pasuk in Parshas Emor, when it says these 5 details, the pasuk there says, Va'akayin ha'gadol me'echav. The Kayin, which is Gadol me'echav, and it says all these halachas that he should not tear kriya and so on. So what do I learn that from the terms of the pasuk? So when it says HaKohen HaGadol Mi'achav, I say Zeh Kohen Gadol. That refers to the Kohen Gadol serving the Beis HaMikdash. Then when it says Asher Yutzak Al Roishoi, so then it's adding Shemen HaMishcha, that it was oil was poured on his head to anoint him. Zeh Meshuach Muhammad. That refers to the kind that was anointed even to lead Yidden in war. And then the pasuk goes on to say, and his hands are filled, Lil B'Shas HaBegadim, which means that he wears the extra garments. Zeh Merubah Begadim. It refers even to the Kohen Gadol that was not anointed, but he just has the extra garments. And Al Kulan Hu Omer, so therefore the pasuk is saying so many details. It's adding all these 3 individuals, and it's saying regarding all of them, Raisha La Yifra. That's what it says there in the first pasuk. He does not let his hair grow long. Uvegadav La Yifraim, and he does not tear his garments. Okay. Loi Pereya, okay, so I didn't touch it before properly. Loi Pereya, Pereya means to let the hair grow long, not the Kriya. So those are 2 details. Eval Kol Nafshis Meis Lo Yavai, and you can't get Tommy to a close relative. So we see that these details apply even to the Kayat Meshuach Muhammad. Yachayel, I would think to say, that they can all also do like the Kohen Gadol himself and bring a carbon in the Beis HaMikdash even on the day when their relative passed away before he was buried. That's an Einan. Talmud Laimar. So there, regarding this, that the Kohen Gadol could bring as an Einan, the pasuk says, Kinezeh Shemen Mishchas Alakav Olav. That is the crown of the anointing oil that's on him. So it says Olav. We learn V'loy Achaverai, and not his other colleagues that were mentioned here in the pasuk. So if so, I would think, since I see this exclusion, and the pasuk says that the Kohen Gadol is unique, I would think that this Kohen Meshuach Muhammad would not be commanded on this, that he may only marry a Besula. Talmud Laima Vehu. When it says there in the pasuk, Vehu Isha B'Psula Yikach, that extra word Vehu is coming to add that he as well, the Kohen Meshuach Muhammad, must marry only a Psula. But on this detail, the Gemara says it's a machlekes. Tanoi, we learned the machlekes about this when it says in the pasuk, "Who isha b'psula yikach." So what is it coming to say? So achash chalak hakasov. After the Torah makes a difference and says that only the Kohen Gadol may bring karbanis when he's an einan. So now riba. Here the pasuk is saying v'hu, that it includes the Kohen Meshuach Muhammad as well, that he must marry a b'sula. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel, as we just learned before, Rabbi Shmuel, this is his opinion. However, Rabbi Kiva argues and says no. It's a different thing. I would think that only this Kohen Gadol that was removed from his position temporarily because of a seminal omission. So then he's still a Kohen Gadol, but machmas mumen minayin, if he was removed from his position because he now has a blemish. So how do I know that he still may only marry a Basula? Talmud Laimar Vuhu. The Vuhu is going on this. The Kohen Gadol that was removed because of a mum, that he must marry only a Basula, but we're not learning from here regarding the Kohen Meshuach Muhammad. Rav asks Rav Nachman, Mashiach shenitztara, the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Mashiach that became a Mitzayre and now he was removed from his position as a Kohen. So Ma'al Balmana, do we now say that he's able to marry even a widow? Do I say, what's the Ibaya? Do I say mitche dachi, that the Kohen Gadol, it's completely removed from him, meaning he may not marry an almana even if he's not a Kohen Gadol anymore. Once he was appointed, he has that kedusha. He never can marry an almana. Oi miftar pata, or it just means at that time when he's a Kohen Gadol, then he may not. But it doesn't mean that it's completely removed from him. And if he's demoted, he was a mitzayre, so then he could marry an almana. Have a biyadei. So Rav Nachman did not have an answer for this. Now Zimnin, have a Yosef Rav Papa. Rav Papa was once sinning, and he had this same shaila. And Amalei Huna, bereid Rav Nachman. So Huna, the son of Rav Nachman, so he said to Rav Papa that will bring a rai from the Braisa that was quoted before. Tanina, we learned this in the Braisa that Rabbi Akiva says, "Ainli Yalashava Machmas Kirya." You would think that the Kohen Gadol that became a Balkeri, so then because he was removed only temporarily, so he may not marry an almana. Of a machmas mumah minayin. How do I know that even if he was removed because he has a blemish, that he also must marry only a basula and not an almana? Talmud lema v'hu. The word v'hu comes to add that. So if we say this regarding a kohen gadol that has a mum, the same regarding the kohen gadol that became a mitzayre, that he also must marry only a basula. That's the proof that he brought. So Rav Papa heard this proof. He got up, nashke bereishe, he kissed him on his forehead or on his head, and v'yavle berate, and he married off his daughter to him. Now you know how you choose a chassan. Zakt, let's learn one more. In over here, the Mishnah. Zakt heilige Mishnah, Kohen Gadol, Peirim, the Kohen Gadol when he tears kriya. So here the Mishnah is going to explain and saying with the point we said before that a Kohen Gadol does tear kriya, but how? Mulmata, different plane, the bottom of the garment. But vahedyet mulmaila, the Kohen Hedyet tears kriya like a regular kriya on the top of the garment. Kohen Gadol makriv, the Kohen Gadol brings the carbon oinon on that day when his relative passed away. V'loy oichel, but he doesn't eat from it. Vahedyet loy makriv v'loy oichel. The Hedyet cannot bring the carbon and cannot eat from it when he's an oinon. Omarav. So Rav said, Lamata means, the below of his garment means Lamata mamish. Literally, on the bottom of his garment, that's where he tears the kriya, different than the regular kriya. Lamaila means Lamaila mamish, literally on the top at the opening of the garment. Shmuel Amar, however, Shmuel said, Lamata means not all the way at the bottom. It just means Lamata mikami sofa. It means below the seam. When the kriya is regularly done, it's done on the seam of the garment, on the top by the neck. But here, you go a little bit further down and you make a hole and it's torn, but it's not mamish by the seam. But Lamaila means Lamaila Mikami Safa, that it means by the seam that's torn by the neck. And Vizeh B'Tzaver, both are though on the top of the garment by the neck. Meisvei, the Gemara asks on this, it says, Al Kala Meisim Kulon, regarding anyone that passed away, Rotza Mavdol Kami Safa Shaloi, if he wants, he can tear the Kriya by the seam, and Rotza Ein Mavdol Kami Safa Shaloi, or he can tear Kriya, it doesn't have to be by the seam. But al aviv al imoy, on one's father and mother, mavdil, over there he has to separate, he has to tear by the seam. Okay, so what do we see here? That the concept of kriya applies not only by the seam. If so, kivin de baal mahavekera, if I see that regarding tearing kriya, not for a father or mother, but the concept of kriya applies even not by the seam. So if so, why wouldn't I say kari kan? I should apply here what it says for the kohen gadol begadav lo yifrem, that he shouldn't tear his garment. So why is Shmuel saying that you can tear the garment just a little bit lower down and that's already okay because it's not kriya? But it is. We see that even kriya for other people that is a level, a certain inyan of kriya. And says the Gemara, Shmuel, Rabbi Yehuda Svirele. The reason Shmuel is saying this is because he holds like a different opinion. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda that said, the Omar, Kol Kera, She'ena Mavdol Safa, anytime a person tears kriya and he did not separate the seam of the garment, he didn't tear there, Safa Shaloi, Einai Ela Kera Shal Tiflis. So this kriya is not the kriya of this inyan of kriya, it's just, it accomplishes nothing. And therefore the Kohen Gadol is allowed to do this. Now, the Gemara asks, me, Isleila Rabbi Yehuda kriya b'Kohen Gadol, you're saying he holds like Rabbi Yehuda? But does Rabbi Yehuda himself hold that there's any kind of kriya by a Kohen Gadol? But Vatani, we learned in the Braise, Ilu nema roish lo yifra o beged lo yifre. If the pasuk would say that do not let the hair grow long and do not tear the garment, but it would not say roishoi, his head and his garment. It would just say the head and the garment. So then I would say it's not even telling the Kohen Gadol not to regarding his own hair or his own garments. I would say maybe it's something else. Maybe what the pasuk is coming and saying is by the saita, when her hair has to grow long and she has to tear her garments, the kohen should do it and not a kohen hedyet. Maybe that's what it's saying. So they were Talmud Lemes, Rabbi Yehuda says that it's referring to the Kohen Gadol, and Rabbi Yehuda adds the words kol iker, which means that by a Kohen Gadol there's no kriya at all. Not like it said in the Mishnah here that there's kriya that's done, but it's done mulmata, it's done on the bottom. So if you're saying Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yehuda, then there's no kriya at all. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel Omer. Oh, sorry. First, this is the argument here. Rabbi Shmuel says, "Ein peirim kederach shebnei adam peirim." He doesn't do the kriya like people usually do in the top of the garment, but ella humul mata. He does the kriya at the bottom of the garment. V'hadiyat mamayla. The hadiyat does it above. So again, the Gemara's question here is, how can you say Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yehuda regarding kriya if Shmuel holds there's no kriya by a kohen gadol at all? So the Gemara explains, no, Shmuel sava like Rabbi Yehuda b'chada. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda in one detail. Rabbi Yehuda says the only kriya is by the seam of the garment. Therefore, if the kohen gadol does the kriya not by the seam, that's okay. But regarding the other detail, that Rabbi Yehuda said that there's no kriya by a kohen gadol at all, on that he argues. Shmuel holds like what it says in our Mishnah, that there is kriya even by a kohen gadol.